Hey guys, it's Dr. Sandy, and I have the lovely Tanya with me tonight. We had some people that were unable to show up because they're having bunches of storms around the United States, and I'm sure up in Canada as well. We're broadcasting live, and if you know of anybody that has been suffering an enormous amount of feeling alone, isolated, that are just absolutely don't know which way to turn. They have nobody to talk to. Please, by all means, come see us on Facebook, Nurses Against Violence Unite. We have a support group for all of our nurses and nursing friends that help us with our jobs every day. You are not alone. We are here to help you. We have tons of people on the page that are continued supporters that are always with us, and that have always been, diehard fans. And we want to tell you straight, that we absolutely love you and thank you for being a part of Nurses Against Violence Unite. I have the lovely Yolene that is also with us. Oh, there she is. It's been forever. I can't hear you, but we're gonna keep on moving. So, so tonight I wanted to pause for a minute because there is something that happened up here. I'm in Minnesota. It has been basically -9, -4 pretty much for the whole day. And yes, and we go out with just a sweatshirt because that's the way we roll. We miss Florida. We're coming back to Florida. If anything, was it Florida or bust? But I wanted to take a moment to recognize those that are up here. There was a tragedy that happened, and this is becoming more frequent than not. There was a gentleman. There was a warning in 2018 of this gentleman, and there was really nothing done about him. He comes back to the facility and opens fire, wounding 10. 4 of them, or one of them, passed away, and I believe she was an LPN, a med tech, and then an LPN. And then there was 3 others that are still critically injured. I don't know. I haven't checked today to see if they've been released, but we cannot allow this to happen, people. We cannot. This has a lot to do with us reporting. This has everything to do with us not staying quiet about things that are not right. I'm tired of seeing people put their head down and looking the other way when things are really starting to hit the fan. We are a family. We are a family, and we have to be united. Now, I get heated and I get upset about this because I know what we are capable of. Nurses Against Violence, we are the change, and we will make change happen. We are doing it every day. We have tons of people that are on our page that are sharing it, that are, giving love out to everybody. That is what nursing is. Nursing isn't just letting bad things happen. We're the most trusted profession out there. We are the most trusted profession, and look what we're doing, not only to, not reporting things that we're seeing, right? This was reported in 2018, but was it taken seriously? Instead of, and heed my warning, and if you're guilty of this, heed my warning. You're so busy, you know what's going to come out of my mouth, right? You're so busy putting your staff under a microscope instead of making sure that they're safe. How dare you? Nursing leaders, how dare you let this happen? Let me show you something. This is unnerving, okay? Now, Yolene will laugh. This is just a start of peer-reviewed articles I have found about nurses not taking care of their students, showing their students that this is okay to be like this, to turn the cheek, to not be okay. It starts with faculty. It starts with nursing leaders. We have to stand up and stop this. And if you aren't, I'm going to do it for you. There is no way we're going to survive through this winter. Not physically winter. I'm talking about winter of our profession. If we just let things continue to just go ahead and be as they are. How dare you? Take it for shame. Take it for whatever you want. But if you turn the face and don't make sure that your students understand things, and if you're too busy delegating instead of diving in with them and showing them how a nurse is, not letting people make them feel uncomfortable on the floor, making them feel loved, loving yourself. If it's not okay for you to be on and doing what you're doing, leave. Do something else that brings joy in your life. Stop feeding stagnant in our profession of love and caring. I'm begging you, we have to change this. It starts with us. And we have these people that are getting hurt every day out there. And we're just like, oh, it's just another part of the job. Oh, you can't handle it? Then I guess you should leave. Oh, well, I guess you're not cut out to be a nurse. Are you serious? Are you serious? Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. Let's go ahead and, since this nurse has a large voice, and I know that there's somebody that I might be hitting right here with, these words. This person has an outspoken voice. They're gonna be loud and they might cause our profession some problems. So let's micromanage them and let's get them out. Let's take away their license. Let's do what we have to do, because this is a part of what we do. We have to regulate, but you're regulating the wrong people. How about you look in the mirror? So I say this with great sadness. My profession is dying. And with that, what happened with those individuals that got hurt? We have to be a better society. There is flags half staff for these people in that community. I couldn't believe it. People stopping by. I honestly, I got out of my truck. I put my banner up and I was right by where you guys saw me on that video. If you got the chance to look at it on Facebook. My heart hurt. It hurt. My hands, I could not feel them to take down my banner off my truck. I couldn't feel my face. I could not feel, my hands are so like they were frostbitten because my kids, couldn't find my gloves because, my kids did something with them. And I was there. I did whatever I had to do to be there. I was by myself, but I also had everybody watching. We need to stand up for our profession, for these people. That the one that lost her life and those people that are struggling don't know they're going to pay their bills. There's a GoFundMe available for them. We need to be a better society as nursing professionals. That means CNAs being good to our CNAs, or CNAs being good to us. That means loving your EMTs, no matter how much they might come off snarky. They're going through something. When's the last time you said, hey, how are you doing? I'm not telling you guys this stuff because I want to lecture. That's not what I want to do. What I'm saying is that if we do not change, we're going to have a lot of problems. We have a lot of nurses hurting with COVID trauma. We have a lot of people out there that are hurting, isolated, angry. And then we have, folks that are in higher power that are feeding on those that are not okay. Right? And I think you can read between the lines. When you have a hurting society and you feed them things, what ends up happening is it eats away at everybody. And then everybody is at each other. That is what we have. We have if we think that this violence in healthcare institutions is going away, it's only going to get worse. Because for some reason, like part of my life, I grew up in the DC area. People turn their face and be quiet when something happens. That's exactly what's happening with nursing. We have to stand up. I'm not saying be a part of the problem. I'm saying be a part of the solution. So, well, I want to take a moment, and I want to catch up a little bit with Tanya and Yolene. I want to know how you guys are doing. I'm sure everybody else, I mean, we haven't seen Tanya for a minute, and it's been a little bit with everyone. You know, we've got some stuff going on. You know, everybody's got either school or work or fighting for things we shouldn't have to, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, Sandy, you brought something up, you know, something very, you know, key with nurses. I mean, collectively as a whole, even with my, you know, recent situation, I lost my dad, as you know, and, you know, just the grieving process itself is like heavy, you know, and a lot of times, even with the burden and the dynamics nurses have going on at work, I could only imagine right now if I was clinically involved on the floors and just having to see what I see on an everyday basis, like with, you know, the whole COVID pandemic. And then, you know, the issues we deal with on the floors alone with the red tape and just carrying the burden of others and just dealing with, for example, if I was to go on the floor right now, I don't even know how I would handle it, much less the nurses out there who are dealing with like grieving as just a minor example. It's a big example, but it's like, I can't even imagine the other things that nurses might be dealing with in their homes and their, you know, personal lives on top of their careers, and especially the ones who are on the front lines caring for people who might have like 10 to 12 other burdens themselves that, you know, they usually bring to nurses. A lot of patients and clients dump their, you know, pain and the weight of what they go through on nurses on top of our burdens. I can't even imagine what nurses might be going through in this stage of the game. So what you say is key, and collectively, like you said, it's going to have to start with professors and nursing schools to help cultivate, you know, a relationship where to try to train nurses to not to take it when they get out there. It's not fair. It's not cool, and nothing's being done about it other than the few organizations such as ours that's trying to reach nurses, to reach out to them, to be supportive in any type of way that, you know, we can for them. But it has to stop. And I hate to say it, but like Sandy says, nurses will eventually break. They can only take on so much. It's not physical weight and physical, you know, things that we take on, but just the psychological and emotional drama that nurses deal with. They will eventually break. And who's going to take care of the nurse?
Yeah, it's kind of like they say, oh, well, it's just a part of the job. You need to just deal with it. It is not a part of the job. And
No, it's
as
not.
far as, you know, when we're out there, we absorb everything that we work with. The bipolar almost action where you get like, we'll just say somebody's going through a moment and they start screaming at you, you know, F this, F that, you're a piece of, you know what, blah, blah, blah. That's what they do out there. And to say that they don't is just like you're like fooling yourself.
Right.
So you take that and then you go in and you see Granny Smith. I just use Granny Smith, right? Hi, Granny, how are you? Oh, yeah, I don't care. My jaw's like trying to hold onto my jaw to keep it up. You know, just, you know, you got punch in the face or whatever. you know, and you lose like your favorite patient, even though that you weren't that, you know, you have to keep that professional relationship. You lose your patient and then you go into the next room and it's like, you have to pretend like nothing's going on. Otherwise, your patient satisfactory scores are not going to be very high. And you're just going to go ahead and, you know, it's just going to be a problem. There's something that I'm trying to find. I wanted to bring up a point. So there is something that I found that I felt very like I was kind of like, I was laughing, but not really laughing. It was kind of like a painful laugh. There is a person that, and I'll read it to you in just a second. I couldn't believe this when hold on a second. Here it is. Is anybody familiar with Lavinia Dock? Okay. So Lavinia Dock was a nurse, and I'm going to read this to you because this is not coming from Dr. Rizaldi. This is coming from an article, a peer-reviewed article on the Code of Conduct for Inclusion and Diversity. Okay? We're talking about leadership and the failure of leadership. And we're also talking about moral injury, which is a problem, right? Putting another fancy name on something that has been a psychological term out there for years, but just not depicting on what exactly happens on every level. So we'll talk about this real quick. Verbatim, even in 1896, I'm like backwards, 1896, Lavinia Dock, one of the earliest nursing leaders, cautioned nurses to avoid appearing cliquish when considering the design of a national nursing organization. By 1911, the ANA and the National League of Nursing Education, now the NLN, selected their membership primarily from nurses from the middle and to upper classes that had been educated in elite schools. Working nurses felt disenfranchised and questioned how much these nursing leaders really understood about patient care. Hold on. Nurses Against Violence, baby. This is what we do. We're for the working nurse. And let me tell you, we don't ask you for $300 a year in order to have tuition. The problem that I have with this is literally, it's sad. It's really sad. In addition to this, it says, added to this chasm between strictly academic nurses and strictly clinical nurses is the culture of horizontal violence that is so prevalent in the literature within academic and clinical organizations and between nurses in the same organization. This is also recognized in 2015 by the ANA. You can read between the lines with all of this, and you can come to your own conclusion, okay? We're not better than anyone else. I'm not trying to say that. But what I am trying to say is being a clique is a bunch of BS. That's where you start putting walls up and not being a family. We're not trying to do that. What are we trying to do with Nurses Against Violence, Tanya? Tell me a little bit about what you feel about Nurses Against Violence and what we should be doing. Tanya's been with us. She's our friend in Canada.
Yep. Hi. So what was your question again? What should we be doing? We should be including everyone. And Nurses Against Violence tries to do that. So whether you're an LPN, you're an EMT, you're a firefighter, you're an RN, we invite everyone to come forward because we're all fighting the same battles.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter about borders, does it?
Nope. Clearly not. We have Australia, we have Canada, there's more to come.
Yep, there is. And we're in about 20 different countries that are watching us. So, and I want to thank everybody for joining with us. We're not just about the United States. We have a lot of people here, but we're, over 30,000 strong and keep going, right? This isn't just about myself, Yolene, Dr. Jess. We got Christy, we've got Tanya, we've got Deanna, we've got Misty. We're all a family, right? Now, do we get along every 5 seconds? No, there's always going to be a personality, but what I'm going to say about Yolene is the same thing I'm going to say to her face. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because that's the way that we should be. Right. And you know what? And if it comes out wrong, hey, you know what? This is going to come out wrong, but I think you're wrong. Right. Because I want to be called out on my crap too. Right. And I expect that. Right. So let's talk a little bit about moral injury and what it means to nursing. And then I'm going to come back around and I'm going to talk about psychological terms and things that have been out there that, since nobody knows really anything about mental health, and mental health has not really been in any part of any kind of nursing education, because, oh, forbid somebody thinks that, they tag it to being crazy, and it's not crazy. You're crazy if you don't believe that mental health is all over the healthcare. What?
Right.
So,
yeah, I was just going to add, Sandy. I mean, oh my goodness, if we could incorporate mental health, the very thing, and we said it before on here, the least liked subject in nursing school by many nurses was mental health. But let me tell you, it has come back full circle. If we don't deal with it now, if we don't learn to deal with it now, I don't know when we'll learn to deal with it, especially with this era.
Right. I mean, this has taken nursing to a whole different level with this COVID stuff, right? Yeah. Totally different area. Not prepared for pandemics, not prepared for acute mental illness, serious mental illness, addiction. Now we have this name of moral injury. Now, I'm not going to say it's completely horrible. Right? I mean, I looked at the wrong thing. I was trying to find the thing I pulled up. Moral injury is okay, right? I'm not going to completely discredit it. I'm not going to say it's completely full of crap. Okay. They have a point. Okay. It's just taking it a step farther and putting a fluffy name on it. Okay. What it comes down to. So when they say, do you guys have any idea what moral injury is? I know, it's like quiz night. Hold on, I wish I had some Jeopardy music. I'm quite entertaining when I'm excited. Sorry. Anybody? It's okay if you don't know, but I'm sure you guys know what learned helplessness is.
Yes, we had a webinar on it several weeks back.
And I even have the prop.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. All right. So this thing says, and I'm on a website, Volunteers of America, and they're saying that moral injury is relatively recent term, which we know that it's very recent. Term to use to describe a crisis that soldiers have faced for centuries, the internal suffering that results from breaking your own moral code. Now, how do you break your own moral code? How does that happen? Hold on. All right. So it's by putting you in a box, right? And then not letting you, like chaining you to that stump, like the elephant, training you so you don't leave, right? You stay in that one spot. It is a wound of the conscious. It is not just military members who struggle, anyone that can experience moral injury. It's just a fluffy word. Beautiful. Whoever thought of that is wonderful. It's probably one of those famous doctors that's on that does a lot of Facebook and YouTube stuff, Mr. Dr. D or Z or something like that, for profit, really is a hit with nurses. That's not a nurse, but that's okay. Keep paying your monthly fees. He's helping you out. Effects of moral injury. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Moral injury breaks the spirit. So does learned helplessness. This whole term is from learned helplessness, just with another name, like compassion fatigue. It makes people question their ability to do the right thing and leaves them contaminated with the feeling that they're bad, disgusting, or beyond redemption. Molding and conditioning you to not be able to feel like you can escape, feeling that you are just stuck in a spot where you'll never be able to leave, right? They may feel that they have an evil twin lurking inside. Moral injury often leads to self-harm. People turn to drugs, alcohol, self-isolation to avoid the pain of their feelings. The war inside may leave some emotionally dead. Moral injury, right? What is burnout and PTSD and all of that stuff, and and like learned helplessness, conditioning? It's all the same thing, just not with such severe words, right? Same thing, different meaning, just not as right? We need to be very careful to not fall in to the rut of thinking that this is what I'm only good at. I can't do any better than this. This is what I was meant to be, a nurse. Hold on a second. Sorry. This is what I was meant to be. Yeah, absolutely. I was meant to be a nurse. Sometimes I think maybe I should have gone to medical school because they treat each other better. I'm just laying it out there. I've never been treated with such respect than I did when I was hanging out with doctors. And they knew I was a nurse. They knew I had my doctorate, and they treated me with respect. That's the way it should be. They don't do what we do. Not at all. That's why they say that nurses can never organize, because everybody's out to either sabotage somebody, or they're trying to hurt somebody's heart, or they're not even crediting them. I'm up here in Minnesota for the time being, not for too much longer, but there was a nurse that was picked for there was a nurse, Mary Thompson, I believe it is. She's with the Minnesota Nurses Association. She is, I don't have it verbatim, but she has actually been picked by Biden to come out there and talk to him about, COVID and stuff like that, right? Well, shouldn't we talk about safety? Why isn't that being talked about? So I encourage whoever that's watching this, if you have a hand in and you need somebody that has peer reviewed, beyond peer reviewed, and that's looking out for the hearts and minds of nurses, please make sure that you reach out to us, because we're doing something with healthcare and nursing. Nursing is the backbone of healthcare. So what do you think about this moral injury? Tanya, ma'am.
I think the moral injury has been rooted in us, like you said, right from nursing school. How many times does a nurse come up against a situation and they hear, well, that's what you signed up for? Well, I don't know about a lot of you, but when I was in nursing school, I had no clue that this was the culture that I was about to take part in. Mm-hmm. So sometimes making those kind of comments to one another is not helpful. So we should just refrain from making those altogether.
Absolutely. And that is how you make more of a, when you have something that you really have to say, and you don't think that, think about it before you say it. That would be a good tip. And you could take it for what you want. It's up to you. Whoever that's watching. It's very important to leave people better than they were when you met them, right? Mm-hmm. Because we all have a battle that we're facing, a battle inside, a battle that we fought several times over. We have nurses that have seen more death than any soldier. bottom line. So how are they going to be okay? They're not. You come off flippant to them, what do you think is going to happen?
Right.
We need to be very careful on what we say. With that being said, we also do need to have more specialized care like vets. That is extremely important, because why don't we have, and we should have, mental health care without having to feel like it's a stigma, or feel like, oh, I say that I'm depressed, so I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to be institutionalized and all of my peers are going to laugh at me. What's going to happen then? How do you think that person's going to feel when they're done? Yeah, there's HIPAA. I get it. How is that person going to feel when they see their coworkers? Right? They're not going to want to say anything. They're going to put on that face, that mask. They're going to mask it. Right? They're going to put the mask over the mask. That's what's happening.
Absolutely.
So you only
Yeah. No, I was just going to add to what Tanya says, and healthcare, organizations usually do undermine the challenges that nurses go through, and I think it's sad to say, but I think it's because they don't even know how to handle the problems, Sandy. Whether it's nurses being attacked, or they try to shift the blame on nurses, or they try to make nurses seem like they're the fault behind the mistake or the problems that happen that we see every day. And I think they try to shift the blame, or they, tell nurses like, why did you react that way to the patient? Or they just completely, how you call it, transfer the problem and make it seem like we're the problem, because they probably don't want to take responsibility for, the decision making and handling it. For some reason, perhaps, at least this is my personal opinion, they probably feel like they don't even have the solution, the real solutions, at least, when nurses, instead of blaming nurses for problems and pointing fingers, healthcare providers really don't know how to, the solutions they need to come up with the solutions, rather, for the problems they see. And the easiest thing to do is to point fingers, shift blame, make nurses magnify things, because they really probably just don't know how. And the saddest part is they don't hear nurses out with the solutions we can bring them.
right.
But they have to stop sweeping those problems under the rug, because eventually it will surface and magnify, in the public's eyes, and they're really going to see where the problems are coming from. It's not nurses, but unfortunately, we take the blame and the fall for a whole lot of things, and it's the saddest thing in our profession. It really is.
It is, absolutely. And, and here is the reality. It's okay to not be okay, but know that you need to reach out and get some help, whether it be through being, talking to one of us. We're not going to charge you. That's not what we're doing this for. We're doing this because we want you to feel like there is somebody out there that wants to listen to you. And that's what we do wholeheartedly. We're not out for it for personal gain. We're not out for it for anything other than being a part of your life, because sometimes we might just be the only family you have. And I know a lot of friends out there and stuff like that. People don't even understand what their family members are going through. Their nursing and healthcare family. They have no idea. So what did they say to us in nursing school when you say about understanding? Do you guys remember? Yolene, I understand how you feel. Do I really?
Not at all.
No, because it's perceived like it is pain, right? Everybody has a different tolerance to how much they can absorb. And I'm going to tell you right now, the amount is astronomical that's out there. So I'm going to give you a little bit more statistics. Here's the reality. If you guys want statistics from peer-reviewed articles, I'll be happy to give those to you. You ready? In one study, in a 6-month period, 78% of students experience bullying in nursing school. So how many on this panel right now has suffered bullying in nursing school? Raise your hand. Come on, raise your hand if you have. Tani's like, no, nobody bullies me. Nope. How about from professors? That's where I'm what? Right? That's the only time I was ever bullied. Nobody ever messed with me. It was always those and higher above me. And I always stuck out like a sore thumb, still to this day.
They try. They've tried many times. One thing you'll find in nursing is that the stronger personality you are, the more trouble they try to give you.
Right.
I just stand up and say, nope, see you in the appeal, see you in the review, see you in the whatever. And then they tend to kind of back off.
So what do you
But
do?
it shouldn't be this way.
So no, it shouldn't. And what do you do when they're backed by their administration? What do you do then?
I've honestly not gotten that far in nursing school.
I have. Yeah. Well, maybe you shouldn't be a nurse.
Right.
That you weren't cut out to be a nurse. Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's another one. In another study, over half the nursing students reported seeing or experiencing nurse-on-nurse bullying during their clinical rotations.
I saw that before.
Within the first 6 months, 60% of nurses leave their first job due to behavior from their coworkers. How about that nursing shortage? This article was written in 2019. How's that nursing shortage going for you? Oh, and then we have the millennials, right? I'm more of a millennial thinker, right? When it comes to standing my ground and what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and you need to call it and see it as it is, and you need to admit to it. You need to come forward and own it. Fix it. Don't just own it, fix it. Because you know what? Even though that you're cantankerous, we still care about you, right? You could learn some really valuable things from those experienced nurses. And I'm not just saying it's the experienced nurses. Sometimes the nursing student is so over it throughout all of their nursing curriculum, because we literally, when I had students, I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry, but there's just so much material. I was like, we can get through this together. And then if they had trouble, then I would meet with them when I'm not even working, right? But you don't find a lot of nursing instructors that do that. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm saying there needs to be more people out there, because if I had that in my first rotation, in my first nursing, when I went to nursing school, I probably I don't think I would have been a straight A student, but I would have absorbed a lot more, because not everybody thinks and learns the same way, right? There's kinesthetic learners. There's people that can write notes. There's people that can listen and retain everything. But then what about all that people that have Asperger's, or all those people that may have anxiety or have a whole lot of stuff going on at home? And I understand they need to leave it at home. But after a while, and then you have it at work, that stuff becomes a wash. It's all a mess. Right? You can't you can't go to work and think about something else. It's all there all the time.
Which is why we need to be more supportive, because a person can only take so much. So they may have something going on at home, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and we all have a breaking point, every one of us. And so that's where we need to be more supportive as a profession and step in and say, hey, I see you're struggling today. Care to share?
Yeah. Or, hey,
Right.
what can I help you with?
Right. And
let's take a break together. What do you need? What's left? Charting, I understand I can't help you with. But if there's anything else that I can help you with, it's not just an aides job.
Right.
Come on, people. Those nurses aides have a lot to do. I was a nurse aide. Come on, 15 years. I couldn't even walk half the time I was working so hard. because I
Right.
was lifting and pulling, and we didn't have lifts. We had one Hoyer lift in the whole building when I was a nurse's aide. Whole
Yeah.
building.
In fact, nurses aides, they take a lot of the physical weight and stuff that nurses could be doing, the challenges that nurses could be taking on, whereas nurses take on a lot of the clinical plus the psychological stuff that clients and patients bring.
Well, yes, and I agree. I agree
Yeah.
for the most part. We have our nurses aides that are holding legs,
Mm-hmm.
that are holding
True.
people over for you, that
Mm-hmm.
you're depending on to tell you about your assessment of that bottom because you're too busy to go in there and look.
Right.
Come on, we need to own it. There's a lot of
Yes.
nurses out there that don't do 110% of their job. They follow the same things over and over again. Is that ethical? No, that's not ethical.
Right.
Right? But being a nurse's aide, they take very big pride. My English is bad. Sorry, guys. Nurses aides take pride in what they do. And they're more than likely, they might be going to nursing school or thinking about it.
Yeah.
It is our job to mold that CNA and that person that's standing there with us, helping us with our job. Because first off, if they weren't there, we would have to do all of the work, right? And we should be helping them because it's a hard job and they might have 25, 30 patients for one CNA. That's a lot of lifting, a lot of bedpans, it's a whole lot of stuff. You're standing outside the door, go take care of some of that work, right? If you can, right? If you can't, then work as a team, right?
Mm.
Get it done faster. That's the way we roll. So that nursing shortage, that millennial is not going to take on what you have as your baggage. If you want to come at me and you want to yell at me, oh, no. It's not going to work that way. And they leave. They continue their education. They go and they get a higher degree. But what do you think that happens to the person that's been abused? Do you think that stops just miraculously? Poof! All of that abuse is gone. I now got my master's degree and I'm going to nursing education. It's going to be a cushy job. I can work 9 to 5. No. You got grading to do. You got minds to mold. If you don't do any of that, right back where we started, right? No, it's not a cushy job. And not saying that going into being an instructor it's definitely not easy, because you also take on what those nursing students are going through. That is your job. It's not a part of the job, but it is your job to mold those minds, mold and help them figure out time management, help them with that stuff and let them work on their own stuff, but be that mentor, right?
Absolutely.
And the same thing goes with if they're not a new nurse or in nursing school, but like, let me back up, the new nurse that's on the floor, or even that experienced nurse that hasn't really had anybody that has listened to them or been that friend with them. They don't have anybody. So why can't you stand up and be the mentor to them, not tell them what to do, to be there for them? It's not hard. So this is one of the articles, right? Our own worst enemies, the nurse bullying epidemic. Could they be looking at our page? Probably.
Maybe.
I hope so.
I hope so too. And I would just love if some of these guys would say, hey, you know what? That Nurses Against Violence, because there's also a lot of articles out there that say that when people find this information, they don't honor the person that brought it forward. Not saying I should be honored. I'm not saying that Yolene should be honored, but the organization should be acknowledged.
Right. Absolutely.
Because this isn't about me. This isn't about me. This isn't about, and this is about all of us.
Right.
We need to remember this is Nurses Against Violence Unite, not
So about the profession.
About the profession.
So I've had it pointed out to me by a lawyer, actually, that right now the average career length for a nurse is 5 years. Now, there's
Wow.
many factors, but that's an alarming number. So if we don't start to support one another, our profession is not going to survive.
Nope.
Absolutely.
We'll have a lot of importing
That's right.
because there's a lot of people that would love to come to America. Just saying.
And Canada.
In Canada. I know a lot of nurses that want to go to Canada until I gave them an earful.
Come on.
Be careful what you ask for, Tanya. I don't know about the weather, but I sure as heck will come visit. So we really do need to stick together. We are a family. We're not a functional family all the time, but we are a family that is always going to be there for each other. We're nurses. That's what we do. That's what we're
Right.
best at, right?
Yep.
So any closing arguments or closing comments or anything like that, what, about moral injury and learned helplessness and anything you guys would like to discuss or close with, I would love to hear what you have to say.
I think the big thing for everyone to remember is the change starts with you. You can't change everybody, but you're one person who can change the way you do things. And that will trickle down. So we have to remember that when we're on those floors and we're having a rough day, change starts with me.
And stop yourself. Sometimes we have to stop ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Before you say something or throw something.
And absolutely. I mean, what I would add to that, Tanya and Sandy, is, I mean, every nurse, of course, what drew us to the profession, and I think Sandy said it before, the common denominator with many nurses is the fact that we care and we have a heart, and, these challenges that we go through in the profession, let me tell you, if we really, if nurses dwelled on it, let me tell you, half of us wouldn't even be in the profession anymore because it's hard. Those challenges are real. But I would just encourage nurses to, even with the moral injury and the things we go through, don't let that piece of paper define you. All of us have a purpose in the profession, whether you have that. And it's probably true for people like Tanya and I, whether you have that paper behind your name or the license behind your name. What drew us to the profession is our heart and that compassion for people. And, never allow the profession to define who you are, but whatever contribution you could make as a nurse in the profession, no matter what area you work in, specialty, dig deep and just put your imprint, wherever it is you are. Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to point out different things, even if it means, you'll be targeted, because at least your contribution will make a change somehow. They'll target you, but it'll prompt change or plant a seed somewhere, somehow, in order for it to transition and to change. So definitely, nurses, stand up, dig your heels in, make that difference wherever you work. And small seeds like that really makes a difference in terms of how things can transition into change. We can do something about it, instead of talking about it. But, don't be afraid to speak out, because it does make a difference. Don't let that fear of, reprisal or organizations or employers, that fear ride behind your head, because we'll never do anything about it. But speak out, stand up when you have to, support one another, stick by each other, and hopefully, as time progresses, things will change eventually. But it has to start with us individually.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. It is very important. It is very important, guys. So
Yeah.
I cannot even begin to tell you how proud I am of what we're doing. It's
Yeah.
worth everything I've been through. It's
Yes.
worth. I
Yes.
hate what I've been through, but it's worth it. Right?
In fact, we wouldn't even know how to help nurses if we hadn't been through a lot of these challenges. Sometimes it is hurtful, and I know it's true for me, Tanya, and Sandy. But as hurtful as it was going through the process, we would not have answers and solutions in order to make it better. But what they said, pain fuels passion for something. And I think that's, the things that we're doing here with NAV Unite, let me tell you, it's going to make a difference for years to come and for the lives of nurses, even in the healing process that needs to take place with a lot of nurses, because a lot of nurses don't even feel like people out there, much less each other. None of us, they feel like we don't understand what, we're going through. But it takes people who've been through that pain and that process to really, point out those intricate things and articulate it in a way where we can find solutions in order to make it better and to help other nurses understand that, yeah, we do understand what you're going through. And here's the solutions we're coming up with to make it better.
I think when all of this is done with all of this COVID stuff and people are afraid to touch each other, I think we need to have a National Hug Day.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Bear Hug Day. I know I'm like so far-fetched. Sorry. But you know what? I really feel that we need that mental and we need that physical touch.
Yes.
And when we start doing events and stuff like that, that's exactly what we're not gonna hold on to each other, but you know what I mean? We're gonna be really in each other's like business and really, like give them more than what we have.
Absolutely.
The person that comes to our seminars will have so much knowledge when they leave and so much love.
Yes.
What they deserve. So
absolutely.
Before I continue, I want to make sure that everybody knows that I think about everybody that's out there, and we're going to get through this. And I want you guys, we're going to see each other again next week. I know everybody's got some stuff they got to do, homework and just decompressing from a busy day. But we'll see you again next week. And please invite your friends and start spreading our YouTube channel. And thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Bye, Sandy.
Bye.
Bye, Tanya.